Keep having a call. I never call on this. It's my video here. That's a new one. Did you ever, I've never seen this. You can release your video here.
You can do what?
It came up as a little dialogue. It says for Zoom, webinar is now live on stream on YouTube, but then on the side it said you can release your video here, and it was by the view screen. I don't know what that means.
I think they heard you, so they took it off for you.
You know, I teach by Zoom every day. I've never seen that. I was just commenting, like, what is that?
Yeah, it's all good.
There's always new things to learn on Zoom.
So, Mayor Nickerson, we
don't have a quorum yet? Oh, no, you do have a quorum. You do have a quorum. You do have 3. You can start whenever you want to, Madam Chair, if you want.
Okay. I say we go ahead and get started since we can get through all the preliminary.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me get my video on here. All right, great. So I'll call the Alport Health Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force meeting to order at 3:33 p.m. on February 3rd, 2021. And we'll start with a silent meditation and lunch.
Second.
Yes,
1 second. Give me 1 second.
I have one up. I use it every day. So.
Yeah, I have you. I got it.
Need one.
Behind you, Maribel.
What?
Well, I said, do you have a flag behind you? You can just stand in front of it.
It has a Word document. It's a flag with the writing. So.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Give me a second. Stop the share.
Okay, great. So I will turn it back over to you, Mayor Nickerson, for roll call, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Roll call. Member Valencia, not here. Member McLean, not here. Member Kirk.
I'm here.
My man. Vice Chair Fruitstone.
Present.
I see you, sister. And Chairperson Carpenter.
Present.
The one and only.
And we have.
I am here, guys. I was on the wrong side of the fence. I'm here.
Hey.
No problem. It's all good, Madam Chair. You do have a quorum, Madam Chair. We do also have Member McLean for the record, Madam Chair. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome, Kristen. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda for today?
Nope.
No.
Negative.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All right, hearing a motion in a second. All those in favor of approving today's agenda, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Moving down to approval of minutes from our last meeting. Does anyone have any changes to those minutes prepared by Member Kirk? No? All right, can I get a motion to approve those minutes from the prior task force meeting?
I move to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, having a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from the last task force meeting, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, the minutes are approved. We'll move on to F, acknowledgement of visitors and special presentations. I don't believe we have anyone, do we, Mayor Nickerson? No? Okay, great. Good and welfare. Let's see if we have anyone on the line with us today.
I know Hugh is there.
Hugh is there. Okay, I'm going to move him to a panelist. All right. Welcome, Hugh. Do you have anything for good and welfare? I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, no, I'll be saying some things. I'm just trying to find out how to turn on my video, but I will.
Okay, great.
Here we go.
So we'll move to the main part of the agenda then, H1, which is Miami-Dade County AAA Planning and Community Meetings. So I wanted to circle back on this. As Maribel mentioned earlier, as we were coming in, we had a water quality meeting that the Miami-Dade County Office of Resiliency put out last Friday. And I attended it. I don't know if, I know Maribel was there for a few minutes. I don't know if anybody else was able to attend and has anything they'd like to say.
Adam attended. I was not able to go because I was moving, but Adam attended on behalf of the Conservancy and presented.
Yeah, he gave a great presentation.
Yes.
I think that I thought it's always beneficial to have, community meetings educating the public. But just for purposes of our task force meeting, I'm not sure that there was really that much new information that we haven't already discussed. I don't know, Hugh or Maribel, do you guys have any different thoughts? Or Mayor Nickerson? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a much better meeting or better run meeting than the preceding one, and they didn't try these breakout sessions that basically you really can't do on Zoom very well. I did think, I mean, I still have issues with that whole process. I think maybe they'll come up on the last agenda item, but I think we kind of covered them both. I think you did at the last meeting, because I think you decided that, that because of all these different emphases and trade-offs and things like that the area adaptation plan process was raising, it was good for it would be important for the task force to have kind of a summary overall statement of resilience objectives for the village, so that every time these things come up, you don't have to reiterate them all over again. And I guess I can, in advance of that, I can just tell all of you that I did draft such a statement to get started, and then had a very long discussion with you, Elizabeth, I think yesterday, including which you gave me some astounding and very good news for village resilience that somehow the county hadn't passed on, that you happen to know about from your work that the county is implementing. So, I don't know whether we talk about those now. I think maybe we wait till the last agenda item.
Yeah, I had on my notes to go over that. I made, so as you said, we had a long discussion going over what we would want to include in that comment letter to the county, for this, exactly the reasons that Hugh said. And Hugh did a great first draft, and I have not had a chance to incorporate my additions to that yet, but I made an outline of what we kind of want, outline basically summarizing the conversation that Hugh and I had. So I was going to share screen with you guys and see if this outline seemed about, where the task force was at. And then, after you guys have a chance we can walk through this, get comments and feedback, and then I'll turn this into, using Hugh's draft as a base, in a letter format, not just an outline format. So let me see if I can't share my screen here.
And meanwhile, if I could just, not to maintain the suspense, the good news is that the one thing in all our flood reports and stuff we've been doing is dealing with the problem of water going from the canal through the walls of the canal into the aquifer so fast and causing flooding. So my thought was, this AAA plan, these meetings have been very good and we've been getting a lot of stuff, but we really need we need scientific and technical advice on what's feasible and what's not. It's not just sort of giving opinions and everything. So Elizabeth says, and then we both jumped on and researched that, yes, there is exactly such a thing. It's called a permeability barrier. It's used by the county all over the place, and it really, really works. Like, why didn't we find this out already? So that was really good to hear. Anyway, so continue, Liz. Here's your.
Yeah, I hadn't even, it's funny because with my Everglades restoration work, have worked with these, what we call seepage walls. And Hugh, with his extensive knowledge of this little river area, realized it needed that. And so it was great that we touched base to connect those two thoughts.
Yeah.
So can you guys see are you seeing my screen that says outline of comment letter to Miami-Dade County?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So basically I have it laid out in 4 parts. The first one, and this is all information from Hugh, just outlining why we're dealing with resiliency related problems, the geology of the aquifer underneath El Portal, and the what we need to do from a very high scale level to solve the issue, which is slow down water coming in and get the water that is in out. And so then the next section, I kind of jump into the 5. I don't love the 5 solutions that Miami-Dade County has brought to us, but I want to address them because that's what they're bringing to the table as the solutions. So we'll walk through each one of those and explain what we like and what we don't like. And this mirrors, some of the things that Hugh had to say, and some of the things I was in a breakout session with Mayor Nickerson as well on one of the flood community meetings, and this is some of the things that Mayor Nickerson had indicated as well, and that I've heard from the task force as a whole. So we'll walk through what we like and don't like about the 5 priorities, and then in the next section we will add some of the solutions that Hugh has proposed and other things that we have discussed internally, like storm drains. And our LMS projects. So these are all things that the county is not mentioning, hasn't really brought up as solutions. So we can walk through that, and I have it kind of subdivided by preventing water coming in the first place, and then once water is already in, getting it out faster. And then the last section is just other things that the county should be considering. When they say things like one of the 5 potential solutions we have is to build on fill, it makes me think that they're thinking 30 years down the road, as maybe you're demolishing a house and then adding fill and building on top of that, but that's not a now solution, and it's not feasible for most people financially, and just architecturally doesn't make sense to knock down a house and put more fill. So things like that, just stressing another thing that Mayor Nickerson said at the community meeting, that we need to be hitting short-term and long-term at the same time. We can't just be focusing on long-term. We can't just be focusing on short-term. So this is what, Hugh's beautiful draft, I kind of just added a few things and put it into an outline format. So just wanted to get your all's feedback before it gets turned into, or before I incorporate it into Hugh's draft, just expanding the draft a little bit.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Of course.
My question would be around sewer and septic. Are we planning to bring that in as one of the real priorities that we have? Because I don't know where we might want to address that, but I think it is important for the village.
We can do a water quality section.
Sure.
And I'm sure Kristen and he will have a lot to add on that as well. I was thinking very narrow-minded on thinking on what the Miami-Dade County had presented to us, but I think that's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I did the same thing. I was organizing around their priorities. But, if you look at our Hurricane Ada flood report that we have, I mean, that's absolutely number 1. Because it's almost number 1, because we either get septic or we're going to have to do something about septic drain fields and flooding.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And
this doesn't even touch on, I mean, really, another thing that I didn't love about the county's presentation is that it was supposed to be, a resiliency presentation, but we're not talking about like water consumption, and water quality was basically forced on them by the community participants who were upset about the septic to sewer issue. So they really only addressed flooding. So I think it's important to point those things out as well.
Right, and I see the flooding as a direct impact to septic issues. That you can't really separate them much, because anytime we have flooding, we have overflowed septic tanks in the lower lying areas, and that kills your water quality, et cetera. And it's just like a big circle.
Well, and the flooding, I mean, it's like it's a Mobius strip, because it also ruins the flooding ruins the septic, right? So it's like vice versa, back and forth.
And the fact you're able to work in Mobius strip is just amazing.
Thank you,
I love
Courtney.
them.
I aim to please.
Could I just say something more at the beginning of it? I mean, one thing I did was, in working this, I went back over the last 3 or 4 years of what they called the C7 canal level of service planning process that the village got involved in. And if you look at the scientific studies and everything there they did, where they were modeling, like, how do we get water out of this whole huge area the canal drains in a heavy storm? And then how do we deal with the fact that as sea level goes up, we lose gravity drop? So you put it all together, and it boils down to the only way to really get water out DS27 is not pumps, not anything, but increase the gravity drop. So if you have our flood level at 3 feet, right now, if you go up to 4 feet where the village starts flooding, that's only 1 foot of gravity drop. That's not enough. And if you read all the modeling and projections, they're pretty much saying that we're not going to get the water out of there unless the water level in the river goes up to 6 or 7 feet. 6 is kind of what they're talking about. Now, right now, if in Ada it was some huge torrential thing like the no-name storm and these past storms, if they went up to 6 feet, that means a lot of parts of the village have 3 or 4 feet of floodwater in them. So there are 2 things about that. One is, it seems absolute that that's going to happen unless somehow they come up with an engineering scheme and with many ways to retain the water upstream and let it out slowly. And they did do that in the Tamiami Canal, but there is just no area up there they could build a big basin to do that. They can do all kinds of other things, but I think we have to face that possibility. So if we have to live with it, I mean, that's why this seepage barrier is so important, because if we have a way of slowing down the water that's coming from the river, we'll have to build up seawalls a few places to make sure they're 5 or 6 feet. But if we can keep water from going through the seawall, maybe we get a foot of rain in the village, we can handle that. But we do have these 2 big pumps coming in the LMS process. And those pumps can let us pump down ahead of the storm like they do in Larchmont. The seepage barrier will keep it out, and we can ride out a couple of days with water level at that height going out, So this is critical. And I think it's also critical for us to say, that this isn't our doing. This is flooding upstream, but we have to deal with it because we're at this end of it. But we need some really clear, honest answers about what we're facing so we can plan for it. End of speech. Thank you.
Elizabeth, is there more below what we're looking at here? Like where?
It's just the one page, other considerations. Then it jumps down into.
Okay, I was wondering where septic to shore was. Okay, got it.
So my question is, when they're talking about the seawalls and building up the seawalls, have they actually put out a plan? Because wouldn't that be affecting also the wildlife that is living in the seawall if they're building something within the river? So have they thought about that as an environmental impact, like the manatees and things?
Yeah.
Occupying the river and doing all this construction, like
You're
already.
right, Maribel, that the environmental, I mean, aside from the blue-green solutions that are on here,
Yeah.
the environment as a, you know, as a focus is a little underrepresented here. Although, you know, I know why. I mean, I feel like we have to just address it from where we're at. But
well, they're not. Are they actually proposing the seawall at this point, or are we now proposing that?
I think Mayor Nickerson can reply to that because he attended a wonderful meeting, which unfortunately I missed, on the historic seawall, but the materials that he got from that meeting gave an absolute complete account of everything that's been going on and proposed.
Yes, so thank you, Hugh, and I appreciate that, and thank you, Madam Chair. So you guys saw the documents that came out of that seawall meeting. Like I said, it was only like a few of us there, so I really got into just kind of like El Portal seawall as a whole. They weren't really talking about anything as far as like plans to rebuild the seawall necessarily. What they were talking about more was focused on our historical preservation area of the seawall and what might be coming down the pipe nationally as far as, and statewide, as far as historic preservation. So if your seawall is designated as historically preservable or historically preserved, then there might be funding and tax benefits off of preparing those seawalls. The problem with El Portal is that our historic preservation only goes from Hugh, where you are, to North Miami Avenue, I believe they said. And everything else beyond that is not preserved historically. So it wouldn't be available for that funding if that funding comes. What were you saying, Kristen? I think that you were speaking before.
I was going to say that's the original course of the river, right? Yeah. From northeast 2nd, east, that's the original river. So it makes sense to me that that would be considered more historic, right?
But so that's mostly focused on like repairing seawalls, not a resiliency plan.
Resiliency. It was about finding out which ones were historically listed as being historically preserved, and then from there, what benefits might come from those seawalls that are historically preserved. It wasn't about resilience overall with seawalls. So
okay, so the only reason I was asking that is to Maribel's question about whether they've considered the environmental impacts. I don't think that they're proposing raising the seawall as a solution right now. But if we're interested, Hugh, please correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, we can't hear you, or I can't hear you. No, okay.
No, I don't hear him.
I'm sorry. I had muted wrong. Okay, so we did learn a lot of stuff about that this week after extremely bad incident. The incident was I spoke to and photographed a contractor for the water management district spraying herbicide along the river. And they sprayed it on the trees on the other side of the river. The Pelican Harbor people contacted the water management district. You know, this issue's been going on a long time, but, you know, so it turns out what they're doing is they're spraying for aquatic reeds. They're spraying Roundup into the water or the shoreline, which goes into the water. And then, of course, it goes right into the bay where the seagrass is. and they're spraying, they're supposed to be like surgically spraying overhanging plants, and the pesticide they're spraying on that is extremely toxic to fish.
And this isn't new, right? This is like every 8 or 12 weeks. This has been
Every 8 or
happening. It's
12
just,
weeks, yeah.
it's just it's whenever we can catch them. I caught them over the summer. So
Yeah.
it's just like whenever we catch them doing it, we don't get any notification
Right.
that it's happening.
But you know, you pointed out to me, Elizabeth, that suing the Water Management District for this kind of stuff is a standard thing that your law for that the Everglades thing does. So, but we really, I think, I mean, this is something that the Little River Conservancy has to talk about some more. But before we get to lawsuits, we need to get the water. I mean, the basic thing is the Water Management District has to follow rules of the Army Corps of Engineers. And the rules of the Army Corps of Engineers would essentially require us to get rid of half the trees along the Little River. There can be no vegetation overhanging the water. Now it happens that years ago, I did a lot of work for the district in the New River in Fort Lauderdale, North Fork of the New River, you know, and rivers like that, they do not, you know, those rules of the Water Management District pertain to canals. And the C7 canal, by definition, goes to the beginning of the Little River, which actually is at Northeast First Avenue, not Northeast Second Avenue. So, you know, from now on, we must not call the historic Little River the C7 Canal. And Adam found, you know, there's a wonderful original plat map the village uses, which I desperately need to get a copy of the whole thing. But if you look at that plat map, which was the original plat for El Pertel, it clearly shows the end of the C7 Canal and the beginning of the Little River at Northeast. You know, that's the end of the transverse glade where the river started. So this is a huge issue for us. I mean, you can go and look at the North Fork of the New River going all the way through Fort Lauderdale for miles and miles, and it has beautiful trees. I mean, it's an incredibly urban area, a lot of poor African-American primary neighborhoods, but it's a beautiful example of a river kept exactly like we want to keep our river. So this is all stuff, you know, that's going on, and the seawall fits in, you know, and it was wonderful to hear from that meeting that the mayor, you know, got notes on that there, you know, there are a lot of houses. My house is one, you know, where there are places where the original seawall is busted, and it will be. But, you know, I think we also, and particularly for the area west, you know, which is the canal, we need to work out with a Water Management District that has, you know, planning, because there's so many things that can be done, you know, to make the banks of the canal impermeable, really beautiful for neighbors. I mean, they've done it along the C4 canal and a lot of other canals. So this is all stuff we have to work on.
Great, thanks, Hugh. I mean, just to circle back on the seawalls just pertaining to resiliency, is that something that we want to propose? You know, obviously incorporating all the historical seawall issues that, you know, you both just went over. Is that a resilient solution that we're interested in as a village?
Are we getting that specific in our priorities, or are we kind of going at a higher level where we were talking about slowing down the upstream, you know, expanding the output, you know, kind of
fairly
direct? I don't know.
It's pretty specific right now.
I mean, I think I'm sorry, I keep jumping in here, but
Ah.
yeah, I mean, when they talk about greenways and blueways, I mean, one thing that kind of gets me on this is from our first charrette in 1999, we've been working on the idea of blueways along the river, greenways along the FEC corridor and through the village. You know, our two charrettes have done that. So the idea of the river as being a blueway is something that we've always done. But the thing is, you know, there are a lot of ways to do it. But they've dealt with it in a very simplistic way in this action plan. You know, at some point, they're going to have to support us, El Portal, and the other areas around to have kind of a river charrette, you know, which plans for, I mean, this is something that Conservancy has been talking about forever, you know, like Larchmont, that incredible park there they're pouring trash into could be, you know, incredible greenway, blueway path fronting the village. You know, there are a lot of, there are other, you know, the,
There's two blocks of undeveloped county land where we talked about.
Yeah.
That's right now just has, it's between Larchmont Park and 95 on the opposite side, right across from us.
mhm,
That could make an amazing access point to the river for the county and for that neighborhood.
mhm.
It's undeveloped right now.
And
And
then,
there's some talk about the county trying to put low income housing on it also, which would just compound the issue on
you
the
know,
other side of the river.
and the thing is, you know, like if you have a house with a very small backyard backed up to the river, you know, then probably some kind of barrier type seawall is going to be necessary. But there are a lot of houses where you have a yard, you know, that could have fill built in where the yard slopes up a couple of feet. So you kind of have like a ridge line, maybe 6 or 7 feet wide next to the river, you know, with beautiful planning on it that holds everything, holds the bank down, and we get this permeability barrier underneath, you know. But to do that, you know, it can't just be imposed from the top or done a design. I mean, you know, it has to be like a charrette thing, and the village, you know, we have such a wonderful planning thing going on in the village that, you know, to be able to do that would be really easy and fun and important to do. But, you know, it's going to take thought and working on it. But it also seems like, I mean, they're looking for funding for the C7 canal from this BRIC program, BRIC. I don't know what it stands for. It's a FEMA program, but that program was in the New York Times last week. They're planning an enormous expansion of that program to fund resilience, you know, resilience things, and El Portal. I mean, the county will be using like millions probably from that for the C7. Well, you know, we're down here, we're critical because we're the drain plug for the whole thing, you know. So, you know, if building beautiful seawalls, blueways like that helps the overall effort, you know, then I think we should be contenders for that funding to help make it work. I guess it's kind of saying partly that I see you guys as a planning thing, but you're also kind of a political voice for the village to say, in this process, you know, we're affected enormously by this and we need support, you know, both in terms of scientific advice, and down the road, there are going to be big expenses that we're going to have, you know, that we'll need help on.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
So, no, I agree with you 100%, Hugh. So that's exactly what, you know, part of this is about. actually the majority of what this is about, this agenda item and also the later agenda item with putting together, so kind of getting all this information together and kind of like finding out what we want our focus to be on, so you guys can get that to us so that we know exactly what to go and speak about to get the funding for, like we know exactly what to go for. That's what part of this is. So, you know, this H1 and also what H4, I should have put those H1 and H2 actually, but H1 and H4 kind of like go hand in hand with that, because what I'm trying to get out of this is a resiliency presentation, because you guys are more of the experts than I am. So I just need those the outline, the guideline, whatever you guys decide as a task force, so that when I go and ask for the funding and I go and fight for El Portal, I know exactly what points to continue to hit them with and hit them with and hit them with.
Thanks, Mayor Nickerson. Yeah, I think that's great. So I'm hoping that the comment letter can serve, you know, the outline here turned into a comment letter can serve that purpose and, you know, pair well with the, you know, with H4 as well. So I don't want to spend too much more time on this, just so we have enough time to get to everything else before 5:30. But does anybody have any, you know, any changes or comments or additions to this?
I just want to say, I think this is great, Elizabeth. It's really effective. I think that it manages to focus a lot of what we've been talking to in a really actionable way. And I think it can provide a framework for a lot of what else I think you're essentially laying down and articulating the priorities for this committee and for the village. So I think it's great.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Let me just say one more thing, Madam Chair, if I may. Because we were speaking about septic systems, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I have down is next Wednesday, February 10th, will be the next lunchtime resiliency meeting, and that's about septic systems.
That's what I have as well.
Yeah, so for everybody who's interested in that, if you're available next Wednesday, February 10th from 12 noon to 1 p.m., it will be about septic systems.
So on that same note, the county reached out to village manager, Mayor Nickerson, and myself, asking to set up a meeting following the AAA flood, you know, community presentations. And so I think that they settled on February 11th. And so I'm not 100% sure what they want to go over with us, but that's why I definitely wanted feedback from you all on whether or not this kind of generally represented our priorities and thinking thus far.
I think this generally summarizes where we are, what we have is important, and I think we can kind of use this for all of our avenues that we need to communicate with. At least that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
It is a great outline, so thank you for creating it.
Thank you to Hugh as well.
And this could be, yes, thank you, Hugh. And this could be the guideline that we are going to move forward with for this particular year. I think what we would love to try to do eventually is to really hone in on attainable things, you know, short term, just like, you know, we have, I think the mayor had actually mentioned that he had asked for short term and long term, but definitely the short term, and that it'll give us an opportunity to pressure them and, you know, and be the squeaky wheel. Attending the meeting, you know, the first 30 minutes of that meeting, they were like, oh, like they sell El Portal like so often that we're definitely on the radar and in their list. So I think that they would be open to this for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Maribel. And my hope is that we're providing these comments and outlines to the county for to put together their own plan, so that their plan hopefully encompasses everything we want it to do. But that certainly is on a parallel track to us doing the same work, just as a municipality, or getting funding from other sources. I think that's a really good point to remember. Okay, well, great. If nobody has anything else to add, I will turn this into a written, paragraph form letter, and then circulate in advance of our next task force meeting. I'll circulate to Hugh first so that Hugh can correct me on all the science, and then back to I'll send it out to the task force, and then my thought was that the next task force meeting I could share a screen again after you've all had a chance to review, and we can redline it. So
one more housekeeping thing, Madam Chair, if I may. When you get a chance, just send me a copy of, I need an email copy of this one right here, just because we spoke about it in a public meeting, so I just need it for public record.
Sure, the outline.
Yeah, the outline version. Yeah, the one we're looking at right now on the screen. Thank you. I appreciate it. No.
Okay. Okay, great. So we'll move on to H2, which is the text notification service. But I don't think Sandra is on yet. Is she?
I texted her. She hasn't responded.
I did the same thing, Madam Chair. I texted her. She didn't respond. And okay.
I can chime in on a couple things though, if you don't mind.
Of course, Chief Magnuson. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. In the past couple of weeks, I was getting some information from Miami Shores, and we really wanted Nixle. And I know Mr. Lou and we sent out separate emails, never got a response. And so I redid it again yesterday, and lo and behold, last night I get a call from Nixle. So something must have got lost in the junk file. And we had a brief conversation, and she sent me some items last night that I was able to peruse. And I think Mr. Lou spoke to her a little bit more today. There is a Nixle package there. And really, when they sent the original package for Nixle, I was able to discuss with them basically the needs of what we're looking to do in the village. Certainly the weather-related things, the flooding, missing persons, active shooter, hazmat, anything where you would want to get info out. And looking at the number of houses, just going all maximum, because then we can always scale back and see what costs are. And really just the basic cost they were saying was $2,600 annually, 300 startup. For the first year, $2,900, $26 annually. And it's got unlimited email, unlimited web messaging, a lot of unlimited things, which for a quality company is not bad at all. I know Mr. Lou is going to get more into the weeds on the different things they provide. But I was thinking in terms of this as well. If it's unlimited, then you can just about have everybody on it or be aware of it, or certain block captains. And one message may very well be, because I was in discussions with Mr. Lou, just playing things off here, that even if they're not the most consequential of messages, we can always advise, please go to the website for an important message. I do that with my officers now when I'm having to text a long message, because I can get a hold of them on the phone a lot easier. Review your email as soon as you can, or if it's not as important, when you can, get to your emails, because I don't want to sit there on the phone all day and be typing and making spelling errors and all those things. And I think that would be a good way to go down this. I mean, excuse me. And certainly for emergencies that you need to know, you put it out there too, but some things may not be quite as demanding or as great of importance, but you just direct people over to the website, which is up and running and looks phenomenal. And they can get all the information there that they need. Of course, on a hazmat or active shoot or something, or stay in your house type of thing, obviously not. But if they want a little bit more info, once they're secure in their homes, they can certainly get that info, because when you don't provide information, I've learned that when a vacuum exists, nothing but rumors and usually false emerge. So this is a good thing. And I know through the manager, and I defer to the manager on this, but there's a bunch of features on here and dealing with points and radiuses and all the advisory, the messages and everything else that goes with it. So we're on the right path with Nixle as far as that goes. It is a quality company. I guess it might have been bought out by Everbridge, because the company is now technically Everbridge Nixle. But I like what we saw, and at least we're moving in that right direction to get this finally kicked off in some shape or form.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Of course.
Thank you, Chief. I think as we spoke about last time at the meeting, we were, as a committee, as a task force, going to recommend to the village council that they do something. And these were the 3 or 4 items that we had researched. and we weren't necessarily recommending one or over the other, but we wanted the village to be able to take advantage of the work we had done. Certainly Nixle is one that is well used by many law enforcement agencies. So the chief's desire to use it makes complete sense and is not at all a risky option. The only concern I would have for the council is, will we use enough of it? Can we take advantage of enough of it to justify the cost? That would be the only reservation I have. And if the village can figure out how to obtain subscribership, i.e. get people on it, so that, you know, you can say, hey, active shooter, blah, 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 and the people in the village actually know about it, or floodwater rising and people actually know about it. I think something like this, and whether it's Nixle or a competing product, is less concern to me. And obviously if the chief is more comfortable with Nixle, then I would defer that way. I just think we have to look at cost and see if we can really use it to justify the cost. But I think having a communication option like this is much better than just posting something on Facebook or posting something on Nextdoor or whatever. I think you get a lot more personal, immediate eyes on it.
Well, I agree 100%. And this is just, you know, something that we got right now. Certainly whatever the committee recommends or goes with after weighing all the options is certainly the way to go. And your points, Mr. Kirk, are certainly well taken. That being said, you know, whatever we use, you know, the cost is I'll say it, I'll put it this way. We may not need everything that they have to offer, but it's good to have it if we get hit with a hurricane and the aftermath of a hurricane. And I'm kind of in the mindset that it will certainly be embraced by most people. That, you know, information, people love information, and if they, like I said a minute ago, if you don't put out the right information, somebody's going to make it up, and then that becomes the gospel, and then having to retrace your steps is 10 times the effort than originally. But certainly the costs are a concern, and whichever route you go, this is just a report on one company. And I just wanted to get it out there to you. And as the manager talks more and more with the rep from yesterday, we may be able to come to a different type of agreement. But it's good that we have something here in hand right now with what they offer. And now we can compare it to others and see, can you give us this at what cost and things along those lines, I think.
Thank you, Chief. Q, you have your hand up?
Yeah. Yeah. Could you say again, Chief, what the cost was? I have the site here, but I can't see. Just
for the plan.
To Courtney's question, I didn't get an idea of the order of magnitude of it.
Yeah, for the yearly annual for this plan, and we were discussing it on the small amount of usage we would be using. I know, you know, in the overall scheme of things, it's 2,600 annually. There's an initial startup of 300. So the first year is 2,900, then it's 2,600 annually from that point on, and then it has all the I'll send out the the breakdown of what it offers, but it's a lot of unlimited type of and the access of what it presents, and unlimited messaging, and whereas other companies may have a limit. Now we may not hit that limit, so that may be a moot point, as Mr. Kirk might have alluded to, but nonetheless, it's just something to review and see where we want to go with it.
But it's it wouldn't be limited in terms of, like, we could be sure that if everybody in the village wanted to be potentially texted by it, that would be possible.
That's my understanding. That's correct.
Yeah.
So,
and there's more pointed questions that we're going to ask, certainly, of this company or any other. So,
and the thing is, if Miami Shores is doing it too, that's a big plus, even if just technically, because if we have problems, we can, you know, work with them and so on.
They've been with them since 2009 on that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we put together for this agenda item, and I really do have to tip my cap to member Valencia, even though she's not here. She put together most of this and set up the structure, and I believe I'm sharing it with you guys. Hopefully people are seeing it.
Thank you. I was looking at it and going back and forth.
Yeah.
So
I was like, oh, it's already up.
So the Nixle item that the chief is referring to, as he mentioned, includes unlimited email, web messages are less useful, Facebook and Twitter, and 100,000 annual SMS messages or voice notifications, which, you know, that's a lot, especially if we reserved the SMS and voice notifications for the truly urgent items, as opposed to, oh, by the way, there is a village council meeting. Maybe we use the Facebook, Twitter, and email for that because they're unlimited, and we reserve the others for active shooter, floodwater rising, whatever. But they certainly do have a lot of things, and the 2,600 that the chief mentioned is pretty much that 216 times 12.
Can you expand
So,
it, because the cons are not known. Sergeant?
I have to, sorry to interrupt, guys. I'm going to step away from the computer for 1 minute. So I'm going to kick it to you, Maribel. If anything comes up, I'll be right back.
Okay.
so here, let me
just to enlarge it, because when we see it, the cons.
Are you seeing?
Yes, now we see it. The cons are more not from Nixle. They're in the other cheaper ones, as she had created.
Right. And right, and really what we looked at was Nixle is the most feature rich and most appropriate long term for what the village would want to do. And again, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time here at the task force. I think it's something that the village council and village manager and the chief kind of should help guide more detailed requirements to say, hey, if we had Nixle, we would do the following 12 things, which we can't do with easy texting or one of the other solutions. But the other solutions that we looked at were primarily just, okay, how do we do a mass text? Well, that's great. And that is less costly and accomplishes a very good short-term goal, but it is only a piece of the long term. So I think the question that I would love to have the council and the manager and the chief address, not today, but at a later time, is how do we really want to use this? How would we use this? The chief has outlined some of his emergency items, but to help justify the cost of Nixle, there's a lot of other stuff we can do with it that the village could take advantage of and see benefit from, while still giving the emergency safety security items their due. So I think I'm, as the chief knows, I'm very supportive of his desire to communicate, and I love it. But if we're spending $2,000 or $3,000 a year, let's take advantage of it for the other things and not just use it for the hopefully relatively few urgent emergency items that we would have.
Right. So do we have anyone else on the task force that would like to comment on it?
If no one has an objection, I'd like to recommend that we, as a task force, that we provide this information to the council and a task force recommendation that the village council investigate and select a communication tool that meets the village's needs to address, from a resiliency standpoint, the urgent items, but then have the village put in their 2 cents to address other items. That would be my suggestion.
Sorry for having to step away. Just a couple thoughts I had as well. I noticed that there's nothing, and I know this is really addressed to Sandra. I'm wondering, one, whether we should wait to have Sandra present to see if she had anything to add. But even if we want to go ahead and take a vote today, I noticed there's nothing in here about the contract terms. So I'm just like having flashbacks to AT&T that you pay your $300 sign up and then you're locked in for 2 years.
Yeah.
So my concern is, are some of these month to month, that if it's not working for the village, we can get out of it at any time, or are we going to be stuck for 5 years? So I just think that's an important element to have in our chart. And then,
but I would suggest, Madam Chair, I would suggest that level of detail we're not getting to, because I think we're at the point where we've done some basic research and we're not recommending one over the other. We're simply saying, or what I believe we're simply saying to the village council is do your work. We've looked at some, do your work and figure out what works best. We're not recommending Nixle. We're not recommending regroup. We're not recommending to do it straight from Office 365.
Right. It's just a recommendation instead of.
Okay, I think that's fine. Maybe Mayor Nickerson, just to maybe if that comes up during a discussion, just point out that as a potential wrinkle. If they're on the fence between two contract prices, it might matter if you're in a long-term contract versus short-term contract.
So that could be something. So for example, and I know that Member Kirk, is taking great notes right now also, but so that's something that if you guys decide to pass it to the council, then it's probably gonna go through committee first, and then it'll go to council. And so that's something that when it comes to the committee area, when it finally gets to committee, when it gets to that moment, what we'll do is we'll go through all of those options and go into more detail, as Member Kirk said, once we get to that point. And that will help decide what us as a committee and council, what we decide to do,
Great. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up for the council to, also consider.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'll take Member Kirk's notes. And so when I send this to committee and then to council, what we'll do is we'll have these notes as part of the agenda supporting documents for that committee when it gets there. And what I can do also is, because this video Full Moon will give us, and so I'll also probably instruct the committee members to take a look at this video under this topic, and if they need more information. So
great.
And I'll have notes from this video also. So we'll do that at the same time.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Nickerson. Mr. Gladden?
Yeah, just wondering, question for Mayor Nickerson, if Member Kirk's idea might not be very important, that the task force right now sort of officially say to the council, the ball's in your court, here's the information, or is that needed?
Hugh, you're asking if
it seems like at this point, the task force has done a great job, thanks primarily to Sandra and others, of doing the alternatives. And at this point, maybe it would be good to say, the task force doesn't have to deliberate on it anymore. The village can get going. Does that need a motion to do that?
Absolutely. And sorry about that. I'm talking to different people are asking different questions, but absolutely, Hugh, at this point, if the task force feels like you guys are at the point, which I think you guys did a wonderful job, Member Valencia, Member Kirk, I think you guys did a wonderful job. If you guys feel like you're at the point, all you need to do, I think Member Kirk almost pretty much done it, but I think Member Kirk pretty much did it already, but just make a motion to pass this document of the communication options to the council.
Mayor Nickerson, I would suggest that in that motion, we include a recommendation that the village council adopt at least one of some type of, at least one of these options for resilience related communications.
You can put that in the motion, absolutely. I mean, it'll be up to the council when it gets to the council, but you can, of course, definitely put that in the motion, absolutely.
Madam Chair, my phrasing in the notes is to recommend that council select some communication tool. They need to review our research, look at how the village can actually use or leverage the capabilities to benefit the villagers for better communication. Select a tool taking into account the cost, contracts, restrictions, and capabilities. Is that
sounds
approximate?
great?
Okay.
I will second that motion.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any more discussion before we go to roll call? No? Okay. All right. Member Valencia is not here. Member McLean,
Aye.
member Kirk,
Yes.
all right. Vice Chair Fruitstone
Yes.
and Chair Carpenter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, it passes 4-0. We'll move to the council. Thank you very much, you guys, for all your hard work on that. We really appreciate it because you guys saved the council a lot of hours of deliberation and things like that. We really appreciate this task force, you guys. Madam Chair, before we go any further, I just want to really quickly just bring in, say hi to Eunice Jacoby's back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Hi.
You guys.
How are all of you? I was over here and you guys are doing great. I am so proud.
Yes,
Wow. I was sitting over here. And
Yes,
over
she
here.
was over here and people were coming talking to her. We had the village manager was coming in talking to me. So if I was stumbling and bumbling over my words, I was talking to her. It was like a lot of discussion going on. People bringing me checks to sign, all type of stuff going on.
I am so proud of you guys. You guys have come such a long way. That's amazing.
Let me just say this. Let me say this. You guys, hopefully you guys, as time goes on, you will hear less, you will hear less from me in the emails because we actually have a real clerk back. So hopefully I will no longer be having to write resolutions and ordinances and agendas all the time, right? So I just want to say you guys.
Read them? Like, are you just copying and pasting, Omar?
Oh my Lord. I just want to say that the thing about it is that when you come to government, and when it comes to here, the village manager just walked up again to hand her some. When it comes to government, and when it comes to just like being successful in government and politics and stuff, you guys, like especially with some place like El Portal, every individual makes a humongous difference. Humongous difference. Every individual in a place like El Portal, because it's so small that every position is so important. And I'll tell you what, Eunice Jacoby back, the things that we are about to accomplish, like she is.
You guys are doing great.
You guys don't understand. You guys don't understand. Not only have I been, and I've been talking to the village manager about this, and Clerk Jacoby also. Not only am I trying to correct the the wrongs of the past necessarily, but also financially, but avoiding lawsuits, avoiding the way people were treated wrong in the past and everything like that. So hopefully going forward, and the village manager shaking her head right now up and down. Yes. Hopefully, going forward, just with, bringing back a good team, you guys, hopefully things are really going to be looking up for our village. So I'm just so happy she's back. Today's her birthday also. She started on Monday. Today's her birthday. So I just want to bring her in really quick. I told her earlier, I said, when we have sustainability, I was like, I just want you to come over and say hi to everybody because I'm so happy that she's back. So.
Yes, it's a good thing. So welcome back. Very pleased.
Yeah. I like that.
You guys and all your families are doing. Aww.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I know she has work to do. She brought me more stuff to sign.
You'll be seeing my emails. I'll be email blasting soon.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say also. You'll be seeing less emails from me. You'll be seeing more from her. So don't think I don't love you guys anymore. But now that we have a true clerk back, it'll be a lot different. But Madam Chair, it's over to you. Thank you guys for allowing me that moment to say that.
Thank you, Mayor Nickerson. That's great news. So we'll move right along though to H3. Yeah, we're doing okay on time. H3 LMS funding updates.
I do not have an LMS update. Do you? You have an LMS update? You're still muted, my friend. There we go.
Got me. Okay, yeah, no, I don't. I think we can pass on that. We still have the same items in, and I think we know a little bit better about the need for them that we've already discussed in terms of like the pumps and things like that. But, otherwise, I get communications a lot from the LMS, but they go to the manager, and I'm sure she's on top of them with the chief and everybody.
Okay, great. Moving on to H4, Standard El Patrol Resiliency presentation. I believe.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and actually, in light of the letter that we looked at earlier, I'm basically going to show you a proposed structure that I have for this presentation. I think all of you guys know that the last 4 weeks of my life has been totally consumed by switching houses. So what I have for you guys is a rough layout of a proposal for a presentation. And what I'd like to do, I'll show you what I got. We can just talk about the structure, and then I think what we need to do is actually take some of the elements of what is going into that letter that you guys have put together and reflect that also in this presentation. So this is a work in progress. And also, let me just say, it's not pretty. There'll be lots of images added to it. This is really just the structure. So, or a proposed structure even. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so basically what we're trying to do with this is just to give the village to give Christia and the village council a presentation that will integrate and reflect a lot of what we've been talking about with the Resilience Committee. And again, the letter that is underway, actually, I think has elements of what we want to do here. But basically, starting with a couple of slides, just laying out the background of the village. This text comes from not from our website, but from our Wikipedia page, which is a little cleaner. It just lays out sort of the basics of the village in a conversational way. Then a slide where we actually lay out the actual demographics of the village. So I do think that we should include the number of houses, the economic information that we have. That's the most up to date. I think probably the most recent census was maybe 5 years ago, but we maybe have some more economic data more recently from the U.S. government, and then the geographic boundaries, the budget of the village, so that people understand the size and scope of the funding that we're working with, and then the municipal management structure. And then a slide just about the fact that we have the task force, that we've established the task force, and who's on the task force. And then these next few slides is where we go into content, I think. So I wanted to talk about the position of the village's unique advantages in dealing with resiliency. So things about the fact that we are economically and demographically diverse, that we have a compact size, and we have a lot of accountability in our local governance because we're so small, and that we have we're sort of a perfect test case for many resilience initiatives because we have this unique configuration of the geography, the river, the septic to sewer, the small municipality, and all of the challenges with that. And I'm sure we can articulate this a little bit more completely, but basically.
Kristen,
yeah.
I love this. I would put, based on your title there, I would put the fact that we're the perfect test case as the first bullet item, because we're basically saying, hey guys, our advantages, we are a great test bed for you guys to try this stuff out. And here are the reasons why we are. But I like this.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to make the case for it. So maybe then these become bullets. And again, this is not a final layout. I'm just trying to get the content. Sort of why we're the perfect test case, right? Why work with us? And then the challenges. And here, there are many that we can put here, but basically the competing priorities of the many stakeholders, right? Both around us, not just us. So I want to talk about development, talk about the agencies and governments that are all involved in, particularly around resilience in the river. I think we have to be very specific here about development west of us, and the fact that we're going to catch a lot of, as Hugh says, we are. In fact, I'm going to actually put it in here. Did you call us the drain plug, Hugh?
Yeah.
This is not very elegant.
Yeah.
But anyway, something that really gets at the fact that we're downstream of a lot of development, and so that although we're a small village, we're impacted by a very large geographic area. the cost of infrastructure to mitigate resilience swoops. The fact that up until now, we haven't had a unified watershed management structure in the county to help us do this. So no oversight. And also that we're still overcoming some of our past FEMA challenges, right? Particularly with Irma. So I don't know if anybody has other ideas that they would add to this slide. Omar, do you happen to have off the top of your head anything that you would add to this slide?
As I'm looking at it right now, but
Kristen, it looks like we have a couple that are very closely related. The multiple agencies and governments in oversight, the lack of unified watershed management, the competing priorities of stakeholders. I think those three really go together because they kind of show that to get anything done, we got to go with 25 different people nodding their heads saying yes. So I think those are good together.
Do you think that not only our size is an advantage, but also a disadvantage? That being a smaller municipality, that we are overlooked for certain opportunities? It's just something that would be a challenge for us.
We also have a smaller tax base to pay for some of these things ourselves.
Yeah, so we're looked at as less desirable.
There are fewer votes that a politician's going to get from Miami-Dade County or from the state if they do something for El Portal versus doing something for City of Miami.
I was thinking of the what Chairperson Carpenter said. When I was looking at it, every time, with me, I always try to think about money. It usually comes to my mind first. And that's, for me, that would be the main thing, is that because of our size and our lack of funding would be the main thing. But I mean, it's not something that should be maybe the focus, because our unique challenges as far as resiliency, the focus on resiliency, money's going to be a focus no matter what. But as far as resiliency as a detail, I think more of what you guys are talking about, as far as like the agencies just at least like acknowledging us, is more important than, us not having the money in a way. Because they don't even acknowledge us for us to even say, okay, we don't even have the funding to be able to do what you approve. They don't even acknowledge us for us to even go through and get the approval. So that's what I want to more focus on, is to at least get on their map, so that they start to recognize and acknowledge us and even offer us the things, so that I can then go out and try to find the funding. So that's where I want to more focus on. But it's up to you guys. It's great as far as I'm concerned.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please, Hugh, go ahead.
Okay, there is one huge advantage and thing that needs to be in there, and that is, and it has two parts. And I thought about this a huge amount in working on the thing with Elizabeth, and that is that El Portal also has the advantage that there is no other community or municipality in the county that even remotely has the kind of track record that we have on comprehensive planning for everything: quality of life, resilience, everything. So that's part one. I mean, our two charrettes, everything we've done, our incredible planning thing that going on now is a huge asset. And to me, the most important part of that is, it's hard to say this, but the worst threat to resiliency that exists is the
Apathy?
What?
Is apathy?
No,
Or lack of
no,
engagement? No?
no, not for us. It is apathy because we have the plans. For everybody else, it's the legacy of segregation. I mean, the county has this, these incredible racial boundaries along the FEC corridor and train tracks. And there's been innumerable, attempts to do that, to deal with that. And what they all said was, in the county, you need east-west communications, between the haves and have-nots, basically. And the reason why El Portal is different, I would argue, is the fact that in 1999, when we had that charrette, the biggest problem in the village was the division between the west side of the village and the east side. The affluent, much more white east side, the much more black west side. And in the charrette, a case was made that one way you deal with that is you build a route through the village, a transportation route, a pedestrian route, a greenway route that pulls the village together. So we had that charrette, and the most glaring thing going on at the time was 87th Street, which was very wide, had no sidewalks. Every year we had incidents where school kids walking to Horace Mann or other schools were almost killed on it. Cars would speed through. It was just the typical urban thing, going from the rich neighborhood to the poor neighborhood where you can resume your car and not get out. So 3 years later, we had the design that went in on 87th Street, east of Northeast 2nd, with the sidewalks, with the traffic calming. It became a beautiful throughway. The next piece of it was already pretty beautiful and fit in that character. And then came along the plan for the nature trail that continued it to the west.
So Hugh, are you making a case as an advantage, saying that we have a good economic connection between, or we have at least?
Well, I believe, and it's been painful and hard, but having lived here 35 years, having been told when I moved in and then later when I bought in Sherwood Forest that it was absolutely, totally expected of me that I would not ever sell or rent my house to a black person. The progress the village has made is enormous. And I think that east-west thing also reflects in our planning. So to me, the village is a test case because in the county, diversity is a huge barrier. In the county, economic differences are a huge barrier.
So Kristen, perhaps a bullet point, on your economic and demographic diversity that you have there. We may want to add something, but I think to Hugh's point, that's a benefit, especially with national politics that may find that more desirable to spend money and sink money into an area where it would benefit all walks of life, not just privileged people.
Yeah, I agree with that wording, but I think it goes further. I think, places have to plan. You can't make these things happen by magic. You have to put the hard work of planning in, and we've done that. We have the track record. We have, we have urban design. We have all this stuff. We've benefited in terms of the harmony of the village, but we've also benefited in design. People can come here and look at us, and it's not just here are the problems, we're starting to work on them. Here's how you solve them. We've been doing this.
Madam Chair, if I may. Am I good?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Great. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think Kristen, I think you're on the right page. You guys have to remember that because before, take out racial. Yeah, you don't want to put racial. You guys have to remember that, even though nationally our politics has moved, in a different direction than it was the past 4 years, you guys have to remember that statewide, we still have a very conservative, not only governor, but state-run legislature. And so you don't want to upset where the money is going to be coming from also, right? Because politically, I have to think about it like that also.
Yeah.
So just make sure that the language we use is not language that that can kind of like upset somebody.
Yeah, I think that is more about inclusivity, right? And not necessarily so explicitly about race.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I get behind closed doors, I can push, I can start to talk about things more in detail, Q. But as far as what we want officially, we just have to remember that, I have to at least present this going in. I don't want to, I want to at least get in the door, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, 99% of what I'm saying is planning. Inclusion is part of it, but the thing is planning, that you have to do it, and that's what we do. Frankly, I mean, I did say some drastic things in the first draft I gave to Elizabeth about this, but part of it is the last workshop that the Area Action Plan is having is about race, and it terrifies me. I mean, it's gonna, if they pull off that workshop the way they have it, I mean, everybody in Tallahassee is going to be livid about it, us, and so anyway, that but I we have to deal with that with them, but it did make me think that our planning is not just sort of about the natural beauty and everything else. It's about inclusivity, how a diverse village learns to work together to make a better future, and we've done it.
Okay, so what I'm assuming, so I'll go through the last couple slides of what I'm assuming is going to happen here is I'm going to send you back this draft, Omar, that we're editing right now, and then I'll make another pass at it for our next meeting, and I'll integrate some of Elizabeth's notes also, and I will outline the LMS projects here. And then I thought that the back end of this should really be about our vision for the future, or I don't know if it's called the vision for the future. There may be a better header here, but basically I think the last 3 or 4 slides should just lay out the vision of what we want for the village, and it should include both the short and long-term things that we articulate in that letter potentially. So. Yeah.
Kristen, are you expecting to do that in a problem recommended solution kind of approach, or are you looking just at projects, or what was your thought on how you wanted to address these?
I think that I would, so this is meant to be a document that Omar and the council and the village manager can put to work. So I would say whatever would be most actionable for them in terms of how they need to use it, right? So it could be, I really hate vague and aspirational stuff that doesn't actually have practical I would to it. So I would say practical, like I would aim for practical problem solution, or opportunity solution.
Yeah, I like that.
With that, Kristen, I think that everybody knows that every municipality on the coast is having resiliency problems. And I think that the best way to get funding and to get interest is have a specific ask. And by doing the way you just structured it, it's saying, this is how we solve this problem. And who knows, I mean, I feel like there's so many funding and grant programs running at the government agency level all the time. That are, it's hard to keep track of, and they may see something on there about storm drain and say, oh, we actually have money to give to a city for storm drains. And if we don't have that level of specificity in there, we may miss out on some of those opportunities.
So would it make sense? I mean, we could list 15, but I think we should probably focus on 3 or 4 of our top, our top items that we want to actually get solutions for, and that are
I
in a
think-
really practical way.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I think we may want to tackle our top 3 to 4 in more detail, but I think we want to list somewhere in here kind of an ongoing list of what our issues are and how we intend to solve them. Because if, as Chair Carpenter mentioned, there's something that is on our list that somebody has funding opportunities for, it would be nice to see it and be able to pick it off our list, even if it's priority number 7 and not our top 3.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe a good way to just as a suggestion for structure is the way that I had kind of divided it in the outline is it was keep water from coming in, get water out, and water quality that, Member Kirk had added. So maybe a slide for each of those just to make it more manageable. And then you could hit the priorities under that. So that way there's, as you said, the 3 big issues, but we have the 3 big issues instead of the 3 big projects.
Right. Okay.
I think this looks great. I think this is going to be really beneficial, and great job.
And I think when you add in some of the more meat from the letter, I think it'll flesh out beautifully.
Okay, I'll keep going. Omar, do you have anything you want to add before I'll just save this version down. I'll save this version, send it to you now, and then I will work on a next version in advance of the next meeting.
No, great job, you guys, and you guys are doing. And I'm just gonna say real quick, you guys are doing a wonderful job. When me and Clerk Jacoby were going through the sustainability videos for the past couple of days, just like I was getting her caught up on a whole bunch of different things, and she was like, man, this sustainability task and resiliency task force, she was like, works so much. I was like, and you guys are volunteering your time, so it's just so important. It's just so important. As I said before, every aspect of making something really work just takes a lot of hard work, and just if you have every element working, it just all comes together to make something beautiful. So I really appreciate this, you guys.
Thank you, Mayor Nickerson. Kristen, I don't know if it makes sense. I don't want you to, do double duty, but if I put together a written form of that comment letter, we go over that next meeting, have that finalized, and then you might be able to take that and just put some of it into the PowerPoint, and then we could go over yours the following meeting. I don't know if that's, oh, you're muted.
I can also work from the notes that are public record that we looked at today. So I can at least start with the notes from today, and then we can line them up as we move it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. All right. Well, does anyone have anything else to add on this? Or I'm sorry, Kristen, did I cut you off, or is that was okay? Does anyone else have anything to add on item H5? Oh, I'm sorry, H4.
No, but for the record, we have Member Valencia has now come into the meeting during the discussion of the H4. So I just wanted to recognize her.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you, and my apologies. Thank you so much. My apologies, but I got caught up in a work meeting, and then my daughter, I had to drive like crazy to a middle school that she's applying to take a test because it's a bilingual program. So I'm like, so I'm so sorry. My apologies, but I'm trying my best.
That's okay. Thanks, Member Valencia, for joining us. I just wanted to update you earlier when we hit item H2, which was the text notification service. We all thought that the Excel sheet you put together looked great, and we passed a motion with unanimous approval to submit it to the Village Council for their review with the recommendation that they adopt one of the proposals, and Member Kirk added a bunch of other great language about things that they should consider in their evaluation of the various systems that you included on the chart.
Okay.
And just to support that, Member Valencia, you did to echo what the chair said, you did a great job outlining the different solutions, made it very easy for me to add the content in. So that was really, really helpful. And basically all we're saying is that they need to select a mass communication tool to review our research and then look at how the village can actually use and leverage the capabilities of whatever solution, and then take into account cost, contracts, restrictions, and capabilities. So that's basically what we're passing on.
And
okay.
one more thing, Chief Magnuson was very supportive of the adoption. I believe Nixel was the one that the chief had favored and spoke in favor of. So just as another update.
Okay, sounds great. So I really appreciate all the efforts. Also, thank you, Member Kirk, to send, and to fill out your portion. And I'll be brilliant. And if you need anything, if the council committee or needs, any explanation or any sort of like information, extra information to clarify, just let me know.
Great, thank you so much. And I echo what the other task force members said about that looking great and appreciating you putting that together.
No, thank you. Appreciate the effort. And I think I'm really excited to have, finally something that will work for the whole community, not only in regards to emergency messaging or testing, but also, just to create some sort of like direct communication with our residents. That will be brilliant if that happens in the future. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, so that we're moving on to H5. The next task force meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 17th at 3:30 p.m. Does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Yes, I already have it in my calendar.
Okay, great. That's just 2 weeks from now, right? Yes. Okay. Yep. Great. All right. So that's H5. Before we move on to unfinished business, anything else on any of the agenda items from any of the task force members? Okay. Moving on to I, unfinished business and general orders. Does anybody have any unfinished business or general orders? No? All right. We'll move on to new business, and I will throw this one over to you, Member Kirk, to go through open items, please.
Okay, we did close off a number of them so far. So I'm going to go through the new items that we have. Would be that the chair is going to create a draft of the response letter to the MDC and have a draft for us for next meeting. And Member McLean will take the elements from the MDC response letter and add the content and refine the presentation. Those are our 2 new action items. From prior action items, I'm going to skip the first one because the village manager is not here. Mayor Nickerson, we had talked about a month and a half ago about a FEMA funding update. Didn't know if you had anything you wanted to provide us. We said early February for an update.
Yeah, I'll probably have it by next meeting. Hopefully I'll have it by next meeting. We're still in the litigation phase, but we're trying to settle that within the next couple of weeks. So I just didn't want to send out anything before we get at least past the first phase of the litigation phase. And then for the bylaws, Member Kirk, I have a meeting for the bylaws on February 12th with Attorney Geller. If it happens then, I think I can still make it by the 17th. I mean, it's cutting it close because that's usually when I get ready to send out the agenda. So if they're done by then it'll be on the 17th agenda. And if we end up not coming to a resolution between me and Attorney Geller on the 12th, then it'll be at the next meeting after that, which would be on March 3rd, I believe. All right.
Okay, so I'm leaving that open. The FEMA funding update, the red line for the bylaws as an update, and I mentioned the 2 new ones. The one we closed out between last meeting and this meeting are the AAA upcoming meeting dates, the template for communication options for the mass texting / communication, the content material from the village manager meeting with Elizabeth, and the adaptation area content that Hugh provided. Well, actually, Hugh and Elizabeth provided those two to the chair, to the liaison distributed to us. So those are all closed out. We only have now 2 items open for the members, 2 for Omar and 1 for the village manager.
Perfect. All right. Nice to close things out. And does any of the task force members have anything else for new business? Thank you, Member Kirk, for running through that and taking such great notes always.
I have a COVID update if you want to hear it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. I didn't know what point to chime in, so if I'm out of order, please let me know.
No.
Okay. Well, today I gave I did some talking at the day chiefs meeting, and basically what I'll tell you is what we discussed there. And what it was, I reviewed President Biden's national strategy for the COVID-19 response and pandemic preparedness plan in order to get some familiarity, and it seems like it's pretty much in order. It seems like a good plan. All right. I did research and disseminated a white paper, which I sent to you all today too, on the variants of concern, VOC as they're calling it, and those are what you're hearing a lot now with COVID. Those new strands coming out, what to expect. They have different numbers, so it's a little informational sheet, couple pages that it's not a bad read. It'll give you some insight into what's going on. I'll keep stressing it. I think the vaccine rollout is of the utmost concern, and if we're going to get a handle on COVID, what I'm also pushing for, I know the CDC guidelines show that healthcare personnel and residents of long-term facilities are 1A, people over 75 and frontline essential workers are 1B. For whatever reason, decisions way above my pay grade, they move police down, certainly. That's something I'm taking some, I wouldn't say insult to, but exception to. Something that I want to push forward, that those that want to get vaccinated police, they should be able to. And that's going to be probably an uphill battle right now. But I did stress the Capitol Police situation, where they basically saved democracy in this country back on January 6th. They're now dealing with COVID. And the thing with police is they don't have time to suit up. They may have a flimsy mask on, but when things go south in a hurry, as well as taking business that they have to concern themselves with COVID, and they're right out there in the front lines. And my opinion, and I think a lot of other chiefs share that same opinion, I may be a little bit more vocal, however, is that the police need to be vaccinated. That being said, it's still an uphill battle. Even some of the older folks' homes, so to speak, they're only up to 35% of people want the shot. So this is a problem. Dr. Fauci today said it should be at a certain level, like 70-something%, 65 to 70%. We're only at 2% in this nation. It's an uphill battle if we want to get where we got to go. Johnson & Johnson is rolling out a one-and-done vaccine. It's 66% effective. But on the plus side, it's 85% effective against getting the serious COVID, the serious disease. So that's a plus. That being said, 95, even with 2 shots, trumps, pardon the pun, trumps Johnson & Johnson. So that's where we are with that. Some people are getting the vaccine and testing positive. And so doing some research, there's 2 main reasons for that. The vaccines do take, like the flu vaccine, takes a couple of weeks to take hold. And the other thing is sometimes people already have, like when they say they caught the flu from the flu shot, that's not true. It's a dead virus. You can't. But sometimes people that get the flu shot have already come in contact prior to getting the shot. And that's where they're getting the flu, and they think it's from the shot. It's not. So you may have been infected before the vaccine. So just little tidbits there of information. Just some encouraging numbers in closing. The Miami-Dade County in recent dates, the positivity rate is lower. The 2-week average shows it around 8.44, which is really good. I will stress, though, and I've said this today in the meeting, while the sunny days may be ahead, we're still in a storm, and a bad one. The new variants can add tens of thousands of deaths by May. The Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington forecast about 595,000 deaths by May, and that's 25,000 more than they forecast a couple of weeks ago. with the rapid variant spreading, which is most dangerous, you always have the weigh in between the rapid variant spread or perhaps the ones that are more virulent. The rapid spread will cause a lot more death. People would think, well, the stronger one will be the problem. No, the rapidness of it taking shape will cause more death. And what they're saying is with these new strains, they're talking about perhaps 620,000 deaths in this country total since it started by May. So obviously the vaccine is the answer to all of this. I know it's been having some rollout problems. It's taking some time, and we're nowhere where we need to be right now. I suspect we will get there, but until that happens, I think as just everybody stay optimistic, but it's just going to take some time. And that's my report.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate your emails, both the CDC kind of cartoon graphic things. Those are always good. And I did enjoy your white paper pointing out the different R values that we had with the different variants, which of course, echoed your point.
Thank you very much. And those cartoon type things, they're simplistic, but I think they drive the point home. Sometimes simplicity is not a bad thing. It's coming from the Florida Department of Health as well. They send those out, and they're good. We've been posting them, taking pictures of them and getting them posted onto to Twitter from the police too. So just, bless you. So just the more you're welcome. Just the more you get to see, maybe that drives the point home, a little repetition in getting people to do what they should be doing.
Thank you so much, Chief, for keeping us updated and always coming to our meetings to give us all this great information. And to echo Courtney's points for all the emails throughout the week. We really appreciate it and all the work.
You're quite welcome. I believe in the task force, so it's an honor to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone have any other questions for Chief Magnuson? No? Great. All right. Well, thank you again, Chief. I guess now we're down to K, so we'll open it up for good and welfare.
I just want to say, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, of course.
I wanted to ask you guys something really quickly, but before I do, I wanted to say thank you very much to Member McLean for her presentation earlier. And we all know how stressful it could be when you're moving from one neighborhood to another and getting that done. And her presentation was really still detailed and really put together really nicely. So I just want to say thank you for that to Member McLean, because that's a lot of work to do that while you're moving to a whole nother neighborhood, a whole nother house.
Thanks, Omar. I appreciate that.
And no kitchen.
Yeah,
And what?
No kitchen.
Oh, no.
And no kitchen. Yes, and no kitchen. That's right. I have no kitchen at the
Oh,
moment.
geez. I echo that. Thanks, Kristen. It looked great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Chairperson Carpenter, I just wanted to say that tomorrow, myself, Chief Magnuson, who's a wonderful member of the team, of course. I have a wonderful team. Myself, Chief Magnuson, and the village manager, we have a meeting at Horace Mann with the new principal. This is a meeting we've been waiting for a long time. I went and sat there. The day that we did the hawk release, I went to the school, and we've been trying to get in touch with her to set up a meeting because it's Horace Mann. There's so many important things to talk about, and we've been trying to get in touch with her to set up a meeting since the beginning of the school year. And I said, you know what? The day we were going to release the hawk, I said, I'm going to go there. I'm not leaving until I get a meeting. So I was sitting there from like 1 p.m. until we released the hawk later that afternoon to finally get a meeting with her. And I met with her for about 10 minutes, only to set up like a real meeting, which is tomorrow, with the chief and the village manager. And we're going back and we have her undivided attention for a whole hour. So I just wanted to bring that up just to ask you guys, is there anything that you guys want me to bring up at the meeting tomorrow, as far as resiliency, as far as, it's myself, the village manager, and the chief. So of course, we're going to bring up safety and things like that. But is there anything that you guys can think of that you guys might want me to bring up? If you guys can think of something like, the meetings tomorrow, chief, what time is our meetings? At 4 o'clock, I believe, or 3 o'clock? Let me look right now. Our meeting tomorrow is from 2 to 3. It's from 2 to 3. So if you guys think of anything before like 1:30, if you email me, I'll make sure that I bring it up to her and kind of get Horace Mann to kind of get on it. All right.
Mr. Mayor, it's a little less specific, but I would be curious to find out what they have on the education front for resiliency and sustainability. Just what are they teaching? Do they have any classes, any topics, or is it a side note as, okay, this is how you do energy, and you can do, coal, or you can do solar,
Those are in the science pacing guides. I can tell you that. Just look them up.
Can I say something?
I don't think they really touch on it though.
Yeah, well, I think one really important thing that was discussed extensively at the tree committee meeting a few weeks ago, and it relates to resiliency, and that's the idea of the expansion of the nature trail, which of course is a huge item that's been blocked by the previous principal. But at that meeting, there was a proposal by Adam Mold to extend the nature trail north along the west side of the Horace Mann property, because there's a very low lying area there that needs to be developed as kind of a wetland extension of the nature trail, and that has a huge resiliency aspect too, because making it into a wetland, tremendously improves runoff surface into the aquifer.
Yeah, I'm with you, Hugh, 100%. I have nature trail expansion as part of my things to talk to her about already. So
excellent, great.
Yeah, and just I think we talked about it at the Hawk. Like we used to use that. We used to use it all the time. The land there, and it was fairly easy to just say, hey, can we have a festival there?
Yeah.
And then he closed it off, or it wasn't just. I mean, it was a while ago, maybe about 4 years ago.
That's on my list also. I appreciate that. I got you covered on that, Vice Chair.
Yeah. Well, we can socially distance. I think it's huge.
If you guys think anything else, you guys, go ahead, Madam Vice Chair.
No, I was just going to say, I pulled it up right now, the year at a glance, and for the middle school science, and they really don't talk anything about conservation or resiliency at all the entire school year. It might be an afterthought to all the sciences, so that might be a collaboration of a club that could be formed or something. They really talk, like their major units are like weather and climate, spheres of the earth, force and motion, energy and motion, cells, organisms, which is the classification, body systems, and then they go into human growth and development. So they don't touch on any of that in middle school. It's more of an elementary school with the celebration of Earth Day. It's more of a curriculum-based thing that you would find in their pacing guides in elementary school. It might be back in the high schools.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Madam Chair. Again, if you guys think of anything that has to do with resiliency, anything that might relate to what you guys have in mind for the task force that you want me to bring up, just let me know tomorrow. As I say, we meet with her at 2:00 p.m. So 2 to 3 tomorrow. Okay. So just prior to 2, you guys think of anything, just let me know. Just email or text me or whatever. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for me.
Does anyone have anything else to add for any of our agenda today?
I do, just for good and welfare. So we still have our crowdfunding campaign up for sensors in the Little River. We are about 70% funded. I'm confident we're going to reach our minimum funding goal, but we have a week left to get as many donors or contributors as possible, even at $1, because that will unlock additional challenge funds for us. So we have 23 days left in the whole campaign, but we only have now 6 days left before they figure out how they're going to allocate this extra $10,000 across 13 projects based on the number of backers. So I'm trying to get people to share, and I think I said last time I'd send it, and I don't think I did. So Omar, I'm going to send you the write-up with the link. If people would help us by just sharing it out, and I'll put specific language in that we don't need big dollars. We just need backers. So even $1 will unlock, like if people give us $1 and unlocks funds on the other side for us, way in excess of that potentially. So we want to keep it going.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yep.
All right, anything else? No, going once? No. Okay, well, great. I think that we are all set to adjourn then. Can I
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, hearing a motion in a second. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The meeting is officially adjourned at 5:21 p.m.
All right.